Hey guys, I'm going to talk to you about my pool and my pool solar system. I built all this myself pretty much. It keeps the pool nice and warm, and it's pretty awesome. So let me talk to you about it. So this is a 12 by 24 saltwater pool. It is about 2 feet in the ground, 2 feet above ground, so it's a semi-submerged or semi-underground pool, semi-above ground, I don't know what it's called. And with the saltwater system, it really cuts down on the maintenance. I don't have to do as much chemicals or looking after the system. It pretty much looks after itself when it's working properly. Right now I have a salt cell issue, so I do have to add chlorine to it every few weeks. It's not a big deal. I have to look into why my salt cell is not generating the proper amount of salt. It probably needs to be cleaned or replaced. They don't last forever, but this is like I said, this is a 12 by 24 pool, saltwater. This was the largest size pool I could put in my backyard. I did have to get this permitted because I didn't want the county to come back at me and give me trouble about it. Technically in county, I don't know if you know this, but every kind of pool you have needs to be permitted, even if you have those cheap Walmart inflatable pools for $100 or $100, whatever they cost now, $200, I don't know. Even if you have one of those cheap above ground pools, you technically need a permit for that. Don't ask me about it. I'm not gonna explain that one to you. Part of the rules when you build a pool are that it is going to need to be 8 feet away from your property line and not on top of any public right-of-way, such as power lines and this and that. There's a bunch of little things you gotta make sure you're not violating. So this is 8 feet, almost exact, from the water's edge to my property line. And this side is almost 8 feet exact from water's edge to my property line. And this was the biggest pool I could put in my backyard. I wanted to put something even bigger, but hey, a 12 by 24 4-foot deep pool, it works just fine. See how it comes up to my concrete slab? It just squeezes in here nicely. It's like the perfect fit. And I've had 12 people in there at a time. It's a pretty cool pool. It's a pretty cool pool. I dug this all myself. Now the only parts of this project I needed help with were putting up the wall of the pool. That is a 2-person job. And then the liner of the pool is a 2-person job. You cannot do that by yourself. If you figure out how to do that yourself, you're awesome. You're more awesome than me. But everything else I built myself, except for the wiring for the pump. The pump is a 240 volt system, and I did have a friend come over and hook it up for me because electrical is not my thing, and I've had a few experiences with electrical that were like, ooh, shocking. One thing I forgot to explain when I first recorded this was that I did a lot of digging by hand to get this pool installed. So imagine a 12 by 24 oval with about an extra foot around it and 2 feet deep worth of dirt. And that's all done by hand. So how did I get rid of all that dirt? Well, at first I thought I was going to fill up buckets, and that's what I did. I filled up 2, I don't know what they are, 5 gallon, 6 gallon buckets. And I put them in the back of my truck, and every time I went to work or out of the yard, every time I went away from the helm, I would take those 2 buckets and I would dump them somewhere, usually in front of my workplace. Every time we took the car for somewhere, like go downtown or whatever, I'd dig 2 buckets worth of dirt. And on the way home or to where we were going, we'd go like in a back alley or whatever, and if we saw somebody who had potholes or needed dirt, we would just stop the car, dump the dirt, jump back in, and drive off. It was quite comical, actually. I only got about maybe 100 to 200 buckets of dirt removed that way, and I got to start thinking there's got to be a better way of doing this, because it's taking a long time. It's a lot of freaking dirt to haul out with buckets. It can be done, but that's a lot of work. I didn't think anybody was ever going to take me up on my offer, so I put an ad on Craigslist, free dirt. And to my surprise, a lot of people showed up for that dirt. I had a guy in a minivan with plastic bags, filled that up with dirt. I had another guy with a pickup truck who drove from an hour away. He came like several times to help me get them dirt. I've had people with trailers. So I had several people interested in that, and what would happen is, what's going on? I would bring the wheelbarrow back here, fill it full of dirt, haul it through here, all the way in the front of my house. Just load up their vehicle, and over several weekends through the hot summer, got it done, got rid of all that dirt. That's how you get rid of dirt. Put an ad on Craigslist. People want dirt, so I didn't have to pay anybody to haul all that dirt out, and just a lot of labor, but I did that on the cheap. That's how you do that on cheap. Okay, so this is a kit pool. In a kit pool, it'll come with one inlet and one outlet. This is your outlet out of the pool to the filter, and this is your return line back into the pool. When I was looking into this, I did not like that this was right next to that, because to me, it seems like the water would go back out there, circulate for about 3 feet, and come back into the filter, and that did not make any sense to me. So I modified this to be an outlet. This is also an outlet, and we have an outlet here, buried past the trees. I'll get to that in a second. And the inlet comes all the way over to this side, into this side of the pool, and it allows for a nice flow of water between this end and that end. So to me, that makes more sense. You're actually filtering the pool instead of spinning it around in a circle. And it heats up better that way, I think, too. So you see this oval pool cover. These things only last about 1.5 years in Florida. After 1.5 years, you get all these blue bubbles. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but you see all these blue bubbles on the ground? Yeah, these come off the pool cover at end of life. I just replaced this pool cover about 2 weeks ago. And it's... Now when they advertise your thicknesses of your pool cover, I thought I was getting the same thickness from the first pool cover to the second pool cover to the third pool cover. Not so. The first pool cover was easy to roll up. The second pool cover was, I guess, a thicker mill, even though it says the same. Don't ask me, maybe they shipped the wrong product, but it was difficult to roll up on that roller. I'll get to the roller in a minute. This third one is so much lighter, so much easier. My wife can do it with one hand or two hands. I don't know how many hands she uses, but she can do it all by herself without complaining about it. She used to complain about the other one, saying it was too hard to roll up because it was so heavy. So this has, there's that, so we got all these nice pull straps. We've got these clampy items. Oops. And with one hand, you just roll it up. And when you're done with the pool cover for the day, oh, it locks into place here once it's rolled up. It's got a little break. When you're done with the cover, you pull on that string and you walk. It's like the length of the pool. You walk to the other end and you just bring it back down and it covers the pool. Why do I have a pool cover? Well, it helps with evaporation. I do not need to artificially install water throughout the year. The amount of rain we get here is very adequate. It stops the heat from coming out of it a little bit. And also when the wind is blowing, that in itself will cool down your pool, so this stops the pool from cooling. It'll stop your chemicals from evaporating. It'll stop the sun from breaking down your chemicals. It'll stop all these bamboo leaves from falling into the pool. It'll collect on top, so it's much easier to skim out. I've also seen bees. When I forget to take the pool cover, put the pool cover on, I've seen bees dead on the surface of the water. I guess they go for a drink and then die. So it saved a few bees. It's worth getting a pool cover. It's like $70 for a decently priced one. You'll get a year and a half out of it. Not a big deal. So this roller it had a set of wheels and a set of feet, and I cut them off and I installed these 4x4s, and I drilled some holes in the top and I put the cover in. And it's a pretty decent cover roller. It's pretty decent. What I would do differently to this is I would have moved this up perhaps another foot or two, because when you're rolling up, it'll pinch and it snags on the on this shallow end of the cover. I think if I put it up another 2 feet, it would not have pinched, and we'd get a little more life out of that pool cover. But it works. It's not a horrible design. That's just what I would do differently if I was going to do that again. So let me go over So to get this properly permitted, you're going to need you're probably going to need a baby fence around it. I call it a baby fence. It's a little gate around it, fence. What I like about that is that nobody can jump in from that side and drag dirt. They're physically forced to walk over here to the concrete and step on up and into the pool. I've got this ladder here that it's as close to the pool as I can find. That way the vacuum cleaner system does its job. And this entire pool is electrically bonded, which means all all the metal parts are tied together. Your inspector is going to look for that probably to get that permit approved. So like even this I don't know if this is required to get bonded, but I did it anyways. Even this gate has a little anchor, and I have these anchors on the base of every single one of these frame supports in the ground. Every single one of these is tied together with a loop of wire, and even the water itself is tied together. This thing here is a water anchor, or a water water bonding something. And you take your wire and you connect it to the brass fitting, and that goes into the water, and it touches the water. Or is it brass or copper? I'm not sure what that is. So it goes all the way around the pool. At one point I was going to put a waterfall on this side of the pool. I changed my mind, but with the waterfall, this would have been the grounding point. It's just sticking up out of the ground now because I still might add a waterfall. I don't know, maybe not. But that goes around the entire pool, touches every single metal piece, and then the wire goes under the ground back to the pump. And it's even tied up to the pump. That wire there, and then from there, I think it's pretty much considered grounded because the pump is now grounded to the house ground. So there's no imbalance in electrical charge, and that prevents people from shocking themselves when they get in and out of the pool, and all kinds of other little issues. That is what was required for my pool. This is the plumbing system. So I modified that to be an outlet, going out of the pool. This is coming out of the pool. So as mentioned, I converted this outlet into an inlet. And I know I'm going to get questions about it. How did I do that? Because if you do that, it would be a safety hazard. If somebody had their long hair close to the inlet, it would get sucked in, and that's a complete hazard. You don't want to do that. So I thought about it before I converted it, and I made this PVC pipe. This is removable, and this end sticks into the inside of the pool, and it goes down all the way to the bottom of the pool. And I've got open end at the bottom and several large holes, and they get smaller as they get to the top. I did that so that it would try to pull an even amount of water from all depths of the pool, and this way too, if somebody's hair gets into one of the outlets, outlets, they wouldn't get their head stuck and drown, which could happen for a child. The reason this is removable is because I wasn't sure if the pool vacuum was going to get stuck on it, and as it turns out, it does get stuck on it. So when I put it in there loosely, if the pool vacuum hits it, it'll move here or there. I can completely remove it, which is what it usually does when it's not in use. I just set it up here, and when I turn it on, it gets used, and works pretty good for me. And we got these little valves here so I can control how much water flows through it. So typically I have about 10 to 15% of my water going through this skimmer system, and the rest of the water typically I have going through here and then up to my vacuum. Now this is a Barracuda G3 vacuum. It does a great job at keeping the bottom clean. You have to replace the diaphragm every now and then, probably every 6 months to a year, I would say. but it's an easy enough part to replace. And then this is the Zodiac leaf catcher, and it does a great job at catching all the bits of leaves that fall on the ground. Right now it's not really running the bottom because the speed of the pool is not the proper speed. Yeah, I can set that in the pump. So those are my 3 inlets, outlets. I'm getting so confused. The 3 outlets of the pool going to the filter. Then once they hit the filter and the rest of the system, I have the water coming back to the pool, and I have a little waterfall system here that I occasionally turn on. This is not the greatest waterfall. Might change that up to something differently. And the water also comes, this is the primary method that the water comes. It comes through this, we'll explain this later. Then back up through here, and I have the option of just going through the regular outlet, inlet. And I also used to have a waterfall on this one, so I could control how much water I wanted to flow through that waterfall. That waterfall did not last a season, and then I had to take it off. So I'll either clean it up or fix it or replace it or something. I don't know, or just keep it. I don't know. That's the basic water flow of the pool. So once all the outlets are underground here, they flow through here to my pump. There's the 3 pipes that they come up. I have a shutoff valve. Now the reason for the shutoff valve is because the level of my pool is still above that, and if I need to clean that basket or clean the filter, whatever, the water just pour out of there. So this will shut that off, keep the pressure into the pool, allows you to clean out the basket or whatever you need to do, change the saltwater cell. Even the saltwater cell is below the level of the pool on purpose. So it comes in through here. I used to have 2 pumps. Now the reason there was 2 pumps was because I have 2 solar control systems. This was a little bit of an experiment. I had in the old days, I had a solar system on my roof, and I had a wood-burning solar system, and I wanted to have the pool pump come on whichever one was running, just so that there was water flow. It never worked out right, so I took the one pump out of the system, and now I have my Pentair Intelliflo controlling this entire thing. It's only being controlled by the top one here. This has the capability of controlling the pump either as well. I don't know how to hook that up. I don't really want to. I'm not interested in that, but it has the capability of running a pump as well. From this pump, it goes through here to the filter. Now, if there was another pump, it would end up through here, through there. So these are one-way valves. You do not need the one-way valves. There's a mosquito here. If the reason for the one-way valves is because at the point that I had 2 pumps in here, the thought was if there was water coming through here, it would go through here, back out through the pump and do an endless loop. Or if this one was on and this was off, it would go through here and do an endless loop. These are one-way valves, so that stops the flow of water going that way, and this stops the flow of water going down that way. Since there's only 1 pump, you do not need that. If you have multiple pumps, you are going to need that. Goes through here, goes through my huge water filter. I think that's 200 square feet of filter. Now the filter, right now my gauge is not working, but typically it runs about 10 psi, 8 to 10 psi. That was before I modified my solar system. I'll get to that, so I don't know how much psi I'm running. I am going to replace that indicator, because that is a critical part of knowing what's happening in your system. I didn't know if I'm about to blow a pipe or not, but so I replaced that valve that was broken. So it's a cloudy day, but my solar panels are on. Today it is, the water is 85, the solar panels are getting 96 and 99, so both these panels are on. And when I don't have the solar panels on, my system runs about 3.5 pounds on a dirty filter. Right now it's a dirty filter. It's been almost a year since I cleaned it. And with the 2 panels open, I'm running about 7, and I've seen it up to 8.5, 7 to 8.5 pounds of PSI. So I don't know if that's a lot. So, I mean, seems okay. If you have a smaller filter and smaller pipes, you're going to run a much higher pressure in your system and you might damage stuff. So the bigger the pipes, the bigger the filter, the less restriction you have, the lower your pressure can be, and the less chance of any kind of damage inside your solar system. So this filter I only need to clean once a year. It takes about 4 or 5 hours to clean. It is a pain. It hurts my back cleaning it, but we used to have this tiny little pool and with this tiny little filter, and you were cleaning it every other week. Doing it once a year, much better. Oh, so much better. Get the biggest filter you can find. It just cuts off a lot of work, a lot of frustration. So it goes through here, and typically when my solar system is not running, the water will go through the pipe. There's a one-way valve there that prevents any water from backing through the system, and you don't want dirty water going back into your pool or to the pump or anything like that. So that prevents water from backing up there. Typically the water will come up through here. Typically this valve would be switched into this position, and the water would flow through here, and the gravity would just, this is a one-way valve, but typically gravity, even without the one-way valve, would just feed it through here, through my salt cell system, and back to the pool. Now the reason I have this pipe coming off the salt cell is a little bit of a bypass. If the salt cell becomes clogged or jammed, it still can flow around it. And if I'm cleaning the salt cell, I can cap the ends off and just let the system run without having to worry about turning off the pool completely. You know, I just cap it off, do my cleaning, whatever. The salt cells do not last forever. This one is not doing its job the last few months. I got to find out what's going on with it. It's actually my second cell, and the second cell is performing just as bad as the first one. So I either need to clean it, or there's a problem with this machine. I'm not sure what it is, but this is on a timer, and typically I have this running from about 11 o'clock in the morning to about 5 o'clock at night. Don't quote me on that. I think it's like 6 hours. And when this kicks on, this timer is supposed to turn on about half an hour after and turn off half an hour before, just so that there's actually water. What it does is it turns on my salt cell. You don't run a salt cell without water flowing in it. So if you have it on and the pump's not running, what can happen, and what has happened, is it'll bubble and produce explosive gases and crack the cell. And I did have that happen to me once. I had setting incorrect on the timer, and I came back and there was a crack in that cell, and I had to have it replaced. Pain in the butt. So you're going to want to have that on a timer, and have this on timer, and just, so at a very minimum, this is running from 11:30 to about 11 o'clock to about 5 o'clock at night at a minimum. When the solar system hits the temperature, it'll also override the pump and turn that on. So Some days it's running quite a bit more than that. Sometimes we're getting about 12 hours of runtime. And then once the water gets excess of salt, so it goes back under the water, under the ground, and it goes back to the inlets, either this one or that one. Well, it always goes to that one. I never have this one on. So, I had a solar panel on my roof, and it worked pretty good, and the top one controlled the solar panel on the roof, and when the solar panel would reach 6 degrees, or I think 9 degrees above the temperature of the water, there's a thermostat inside here that tells me the temperature of the water. Right now the water is 84 degrees. So if the solar system read 9 degrees above that, 93 degrees, it would switch the valve on, and the water would go up here, and it would go to my roof, and it would come back out to the roof. Now, we had a roof redone, and the company said, if you put that on your roof, we're not going to guarantee your roof. So I said, okay, understood. So I moved everything over to this. This is a 4-foot by 40-foot solar collection, and it's got 2 banks. So when you buy this, excuse the noise, I am just adjusting the length of this tripod, but you can buy these solar panels in a little roll. It's a 2-foot by 20-foot roll, and I have 2 layers, so it's 4 foot by 20 feet, and then I have another system 4 feet by 20 feet, so we have a total of 40 feet by 4 feet, and this is what we have. So I'll explain that a little bit later. It does a good job of keeping the pool warm. So right now my solar panel is 102 degrees. The first solar panel, and so that triggers this to open. This opens, this goes up, and now this goes up through here. Now I have this bypass valve. This valve, I can control the amount of pressure that goes through here. If I decide it's too much pressure, I can just back it off a little, and a little bit of water will come off of that system. But I found running at full pressure is just fine. We'll see what happens in the future. If the parts ever weaken or we get leaks popping up, we'll just crank that down a little, take a little pressure off of it. So this goes through here. The pipe goes through my solar system, and I'll get to that in a minute. Goes to the first solar system. The panel itself is 102 degrees. It's coming out at 87 degrees out of the first panel. And then the second panel is 118 degrees. So that one is on as well. And it's coming out. See, if this is picking up 3 degrees, it's probably picking up 3 degrees as well. It's probably coming out close to 90 degrees. And it's returning through here. That feels nice and warm. Through here and back to the pool. Sorry if this is a little hard to understand and follow. So, first panel. Like I said, it's going through here. This is that pipe. This is that pipe that's coming through here. It goes all the way to this end, and I painted all these pipes black to maximize the amount of sun and heat it would pick up. And it does a good job picking up sun and heat. So the water goes through this end. Oh, hey little guy. Huh. Oh, he's enjoying that heat. Actually, that pipe is probably as cool as the pool right now. He's probably sitting on a nice cool spot right now. It goes through there. See, I have 2-foot sections of pipe. So this split here goes through the first 2-foot section and runs across. And then this one goes up, and I have the two pieces overlapping each other, one on top of the other. And on my old system that I had on top of the, let's come back to this in a second. Let me show you my old system. The old system, I overlapped it on the new system to conserve space because that box was a little big, a little too big for the side of the yard. But the old system, and this is what I took off my house when the roofers redid the house. I had this system built, and I had the 2-foot section going through here and a 2-foot section going through here. So it was closer to 4 foot 9 inches, I think. And it was very thick. I got the used 3/4 ply, and it's just too much weight. It's just overkill. I built it heavy so it would withstand a hurricane. I think I kind of have that under control the way I built the new one. But this is the old one I took off, and I kept it so I can keep my measurements, and now it's got to be cut up and discarded. It does me no good. It was a waste of money. In retrospect, having to replace the roof, I didn't know I'd have to take it off anyways, but so just found out my GoPro wasn't recording. I don't know how much conversation we missed here, but so when I put, this is a 4-foot piece of wood, 4-foot piece of plywood. From there to there, that's 4 feet. And then I have a box in with 2x4, so it's less than 4 feet inside there. So it's less than 4 feet inside. And then I have this polycarbonate layer on top, and to get it more of a a greenhouse effect. And I had to silicone the edges. I siliconed around the 4 edges to keep it down, and I use these bolts to keep it down. The thought being that if there's a strong hurricane or something, it won't rip out. I also have L brackets in there and all kinds of hurricane features so that if something ever comes by, it won't rip out. And then I got screws going through it, and hopefully if there's a hurricane, this will all stay together. This whole thing is hurricane proof, I think. Got all kinds of brackets, all kinds of bolts. Hopefully this stays up. The polycarbonate, now I put that stuff, the silicone stuff, and they advertise it as going on white and drying clear. Well, it goes on white and then it stays white months later. So dumb idea, dumb advertising. So that's what I did for the first half. I put the silicone between the gaps for the first 20 feet. And then a few weeks later, I realized it's not drying. That looks awful. And then the last half, I did not put silicone. And the silicone didn't work all that great anyways. You put silicone on and the two pieces would still manage to separate. So I got this Gorilla Tape stuff up there. Clear Gorilla Tape, great stuff. So it's sealing every single overlap, and it's clear. It does a great job at keeping it sealed. I'm getting the occasional leaf getting in there. I don't know how leaves are getting in there. I got some sort of a flaw somewhere, but I siliconed every single one of these. You know what? I can see little gaps there. Yeah, okay. I guess I could have used a little more silicone on this. It's not 100% airtight. But anyways, the water comes in through here. It greenhouses it, so it's like
if I don't have the solar system running, this easily gets to 140 degrees in the box. I've seen it going up to 150 degrees, but with the water system running, it stays cool. It's staying closer to 120-ish, 110, 120, because the cool water cools off the panel and it picks up all the heat in there. So the water goes through this panel, and at the top of the first joint, it exits. Now again, I have 2 rolls. So you see there's 2 pipes exiting at the top here. And the first roll, it would exit and come out the pipe. And then the second roll, it would exit and come out the pipe, and it tees. It merges into from a 1.5 inch pipe. This was 2 inch pipe. I reduced it down to 1.5 inch over here, so I can get 1.5 inch pipe to it. Comes out this end, it exits at 1.5 inch, and then I get it to go back to 2 inches for a little travel here. And then we got the second solar valve. So the second valve controller. Now, if this panel was in the shade or not cool, not warm enough, this valve would be flipped the other way, and the water would come through here, exit through here, exit the other side of the roof, drop down through there, and that takes it right to the pool. When this panel warms up, 9 degrees warmer than the water coming out of this, and see, that's what this wire is doing. I have 1 wire measuring the temperature of the panel in here, and then there's another wire connected to the pipe. It's actually drilled into the pipe and held together with that metal band. See that metal band up there? There's actually a temperature sensor on the other side that's drilled into the pipe. So that measures the exit temperature. If the exit temperature of this hits that, let's say it's 90 degrees, and once this panel reaches 9 degrees warmer, so 99 degrees, we're using theoretical numbers here, it'll turn that valve on, and the water will now come through this side, down through here, and then it gets reduced to 1.5 inches again. And then I have, again, the same system. We have a 2-foot by 20-foot section of water collector solar going through here. And then this one goes through there and it exits through that side. I've used these fern cones to keep everything tight, and it's doing a better job than other connectors. I've had the system running for about a month or 2, and I did have a leak pop up. I did have to pull up half of my, one of my panels and tighten those fern cones, and then re-tape that and re-silicone the edges. But anyways, once the water is going through here, it exits through here. And then we got, again, the 2 pipes that go up to the 1.5 inch, to the 2-inch size. And then it goes across. And there's a 1-way valve there. I don't know if that was needed or not. But it goes to there and it drops down to that pipe, comes across and into the pool, so that there's no water flowing out of the other side of that inlet. Since this valve is closed, there's no water flow at all, and then that valve would stop any water from flowing that way, and it's just got a natural incline, so hopefully all the water is actually hitting this pipe, dropping through here, going right to the pool. That's how that runs. Now, you've probably looked and you see this silly little pipe on top. So I have that little pipe on both of these. It's a solar relief valve. A water relief valve. Water breaker. So what that means is when there's air in the system, well, not when there's air in the system. When the system turns off, all that water, because there's so much water in there, it'll naturally try to sink, and doing that would cause an implosion of all the joints and fittings, and we're trying to reduce the implosion. What that does is it breaks open and lets air into the system, lets all the water drop naturally without vacuuming the inside of your system like that. I've got one on that panel, and I got one on the first panel as well, so that when the system turns off every night, air comes in, not a big deal. And then I've noticed when I was running my old system that at certain speeds, that vacuum relief valve doesn't close all the time, and so it sucks air throughout the day at certain speeds. And when it's 50 degrees out there and it's sucking 50-degree air into the system, I just don't like the idea of that cooling down everything. So this pipe is not firmly attached. It's attached with a zip tie, so it's not glued on, but it sucks the air through that pipe and from the hot panel. So instead of sucking 50-degree air, it's sucking in hopefully 100-degree air, and we don't get as much cool air introduced into my system, and it keeps it running as much more efficient. That's the theory behind that. Whether or not that works, I don't know, but hey, it's worth a try. So that is the basic circuit of the solar system. I will go back up on top and show you the top in a second, but for now, let's show you this end, because this is interesting as well. So when I first built this, the second solar controller was controlling this, and I had that hooked up to my wood burner furnace here. And whenever I had wood burning, whatever, it would heat up the water. That was the theory behind that one. And there was a temperature sensor there, and this would click on and everything. So what this does, this is a little over engineered, but the water's coming up through here. There's a temperature sensor. There was a temperature sensor here, and as it runs right now, comes through here, through here, through there, underground a bit, and then up into the pool. When I had the wood-fired burner going, now that burner worked all right. It would put a few degrees on the pool, not as good as the solar system at all. And my neighbor was complaining about it all the time, about the smoke. So he's just a little baby, I guess. So I shut that down, basically. But how that works is this valve goes underground 2 inches. It gets reduced to the half-inch line. There's PVC running all the way. It gets reduced to a half-inch copper. Copper comes through here. Then there's stainless steel, and I had chosen stainless steel because it's a saltwater system and I don't want it to rust. Unfortunately, there's not much I could do about the copper. This is all exposed to the salt. Goes through here,
You load your wood into the thing, and this, you can buy a barrel kit. And the barrel kit comes with the door, comes with the legs, it comes with the fitting to put your stovepipe on, and the flute. So that's it wasn't very expensive, but as you see, this barrel did not last forever. It's not well maintained, but yeah, you can. It would circulate the water in there and heat that up, and come back out through the copper down to. Now it's getting down to what's this? 1-inch pipe maybe, and then back into the system, into the pool. And you can see the difference here is now you're going from 2 inches down to basically 1/2 inch, and that's going to create too much pressure in the system. It's not going to be able to flow properly. That's why I have this little bypass. This bypass, so when this is flipped the other way and this is closed off, this would allow the water to flow through here, and you can control how much flow, and then that would keep the pressure in the system from going crazy. You would never want to close this off all the way if it's flowing through the 1/2 inch pipe ever, because that would just completely ruin your pump. That would ruin all the pipes. It would be a complete disaster. I've eliminated my wood burning barrel, so I'm going to cap the lines off, or maybe one day I'm going to put another solar system on top of the shed. I don't know. But that's always an option, to run some pipes up there, collect some heat. I think this one does a great job anyway, so I'm not going to concern myself about it. And the reason for this one-way valve is because, again, when the water is going through here, you don't want water back feeding into the system. You just want it to go through here, this pipe, and into the pool. And then you get the choice of what feature you want. It's a pretty cool system. All right, so that is the plumbing system. I hope that was detailed enough for you. Now I'm gonna jump on the roof and show you the bird's eye view of my solar system. The water enters the system way over here. Alright, you see how I have two rolls of this. This is the Sunheater solar system for solar panel, and it goes through the bottom one, 2-foot section, and goes to the top 2-foot section and overlaps. And I've got these little fittings to be able to tighten it as time goes on. And all the edges are sealed with silicone. I can see they're not 100% sealed. They're not doing a great job. That explains why I'm getting leaves and sand in here, but I'm getting little bits of pollen in here too. The silicone keeps it somewhat sealed on the edge, and then I got these bolts, and then the idea being if there's a hurricane, it's going to stay in place. Worst thing I would want is have to do this all over again. So the water comes in through here, and then look at that beautiful pool, and then it exits through here. 2 pieces pipe comes through here. It goes down to my valve. I got a solar. I got these temperature sensors in each of these panels. There's a temperature sensor going through here, so you've got the center point of the panel, and there's a temperature sensor on the same spot. About
halfway through, and it's measuring the temperature of that panel. So if the temperature is not good enough, it'll exit through this pipe. Like I said, let me explain this panel. There's a 2x4 halfway between here, and this is actually physically separated from the other panel. And the reason being because in the summer, this side gets shade in the morning, and then during the full day we get the full amount of sun. So this panel heats up much slower in the day, and I don't want hot water flowing through a cold panel. I can avoid it. So once this reaches the morning temperature, it is on, it runs through here, the temperature gets sensed right here, and if it says, hey, temperature is still much warmer than the panel, it stays off, and it goes through the pipe to the pool. Now once this temperature sensor says, hey, this panel now is warmer than the water, it'll turn it on, and now this pipe goes down, the water comes up through the bottom here, make that sound effect, and then flows to the other end, out through that pipe, drops down to this T, and since this valve is off, it can't backfeed, it just goes that way. Now, like I said, I have this one-way valve. The idea behind that was, I guess I didn't need the one-way valve. I over-engineered it. But the idea was when this was flowing, it wouldn't backfeed into here. I didn't realize there was going to be such a huge drop. I thought it was going to be more gradual when I was planning this out. But, whatever. It's in there anyways. You can see the amount of water coming through there. Freaking juice. What else can I tell you? So that pipe, let me show you the vent pipe. So, like I say, there's this air break in here, and it does leak water every now and then. It's not a huge leak, it's a minor drip, because it doesn't always 100% seal. Sometimes you get a little drop or two coming out of it. Not a big deal, you just kind of have to expect it. So this is not firmly attached. So if it were to leak water, the water would just fall out the end. This is designed to, if there's air that is going to suck air into the system because of the wrong speed or something, because it'll sometimes suck air instead of sucking the cold 50-degree air. Hopefully the sun heats this pipe up, and it's also drawing hot air from the panel and now sucking hot air. We're reaching hot air into the system and not cooling anything down. So that's my system. That's my pool. I did all this myself, except for the electrical and except for the liner around the side. That was a huge project. It's a great pool. I completed this solar panel in mid-February, and we had a nice warm week at the end of February, and I had the pool up to high 80s. I think I had it up to about 87 degrees for a couple days. Very swimmable. I prefer 89. Anything above 84 I'll jump in. So we were swimming in it in February, and then we got a cloudy spell, so it dropped back down to the 70s-ish. Now, this system has a freeze protect, which means, sorry, I was playing with the microphone, you probably heard that. Freeze protect, which means once the panel temperature reaches 40 degrees, it'll turn the motor on and circulate the water. And there are a few nights in Florida here, almost guaranteed every single year, and it's happened the 3 years I've had this on here, where the temperature of the panel will hit 40 degrees and the water from the warmish pool will circulate through the panel to prevent any freezing.
I guess technically you don't need it, but I would hate to actually hit 32 degrees and have pipes burst. So that what that does is it circulates the warmer water through all the pipes, and it brings everything to, brings the panel up to like 45 degrees or so, and then it shuts off, and then once it drops back down to 40 or so, it turns it back on, and it'll run it every half hour or so, every hour throughout the night. I mean, yeah, it cools the pool down really quickly, but I mean, do you want to rebuild your system because of a pipe freeze? No, so it's worth it. It's worth the sacrifice. Now, when I first had this solar system designed, originally these pipes went up here, across here, and then I had a 4 by 20 panel. Those are the original panels that you saw in that one video, the one part of the video. They were little oversized panels, but you see how much shade it's getting. This is like 4 o'clock at night in the afternoon. It's getting a lot of shade. This is built at a 45-degree angle, so it is catching the most amount of winter sun it can, because at the lowest point, like December 21st, whatever it is, the sun rises at approximately a 46-degree angle, I think it is. So I have this pointing 45 degrees, A, because it looks not that bad, and 45 degrees because that's catching as much winter sun as you possibly can. So that is my system. And then when I had my roof redone, the guy said, no, if you put that back up there, we're not going to warranty your roof. So I have to move everything on this side. Not a big deal. Let me show you the temperatures. So it is March 26th. It is a 71-degree day. It's a little bit of a cool day for March. It's a nice break. But we started the pool temperature this morning at 80 degrees. That's what the water coming in was. Now the pool itself is 84, 85, so it's gone up 4.5 degrees today. It's hitting, the solar panel is 107 degrees, that first solar panel. The water's coming out of the first panel from 85 degrees, 86, so it's picking up a degree. And the second solar panel is 116 degrees. So it's probably picking up another degree or 2 right now, this time of day, and it's coming out probably high 80s. And then when the sun goes down, since this is the only one that controls the motor, once the first panel, so if this controls the valve, so if the first panel drops below that, it'll turn off the valve. But it's the first panel. Once that reaches, I think, once it reaches 6 degree difference, so if the panel is, at this point, 91, so it's right now it's 107. Once that panel reaches 91, theoretically, it's going to shut off the pump, and all the water is going to backflow, find its low point. So we picked up 5 degrees today. That's typical. That's a typical day. I'm picking up usually 5, 6 degrees every day, and then at night it drops 4, 5 degrees. So on average, we're gaining about a degree a day between the fluctuations. So at the end of the week, you can expect a 7-degree increase in your pump in your pool. So it'll easily be 87 at the end of the week, 89. Nice swimmable temperature. That's my solar system. Hey guys, that's my pool. That's my solar system. Took me months to dig this dirt out, to build it. I think I started digging in the summer of whatever year it was, like August in the heat. I I actually started constructing the frame in, I think, early November, and I had it built and wired up and running by January of that year. It's not a hard project. It's the most difficult part of this is getting everything perfectly level. I have everything perfectly level. I spent hours finessing, just tamping everything and just making sure there was no low spots, and every single pillar here I'd say is within probably 1/8 of an inch at the time of construction. Now if I was going to do anything different, there's a felt pad that goes over top of the sand level. I did not wet down the felt pad, so I have creases in my pool. After I filled it up and I read the instructions, please wet the felt pad, I'm like, oh, so I got little bumps in my pool. So I do that differently. I would reposition my pool cover a little further up so that it doesn't bunch up like that. I would not have put my solar panel on the roof the first time since it's being replaced anyways. I'd have went with this. And maybe even these water fountains was a little bit of a, they didn't last. But other than that, oh, and this pipe I would have put a little bit differently, just so it didn't get cavitation. But other than that, that was a great build. Now you see it's 5 o'clock. My timer went off. My salt water cell went off, and it's still flowing water just in case it didn't shut off properly, so we don't get buildup of gases in there. So that's what you want to do. You want to make sure there's no buildup of gases. So this was a great little project. Now, one thing I did notice, let me mention this. When it rains, water comes out this end. Once the water hits this end, this height. I did have a dog dig here, and it used to be sloped. Now it gathers the water, and now I'm getting some rusting here. This is salt water happening here. So I'm going to have to dig down, sand it down, reprime it, paint it, and then try to get a better slope so that the water just flows away from the pool, because this is salt water. It's not a great idea. One other thing I would not have done on this solar build, on this pool build, is the barrel burner. That's it sounded cool at the time. I mean, if you don't have neighbors, it's a good idea. The one disadvantage of doing the burning is if you don't have that pump running 24/7 and you have a hot fire in that water is just going to boil in that pipe, and it's just going to do bad things. So you're going to have water flowing all of the time, even if you got a hot coals going through that wood burner. If you turn off that pipe, you're going to have a problem. Turn off that water. If you turn off that water, you're going to have a problem. So this was a fun project. It took months to do. And hey, it's nice to come in at the end of a February day, jump in the pool when all my neighbors don't have warm pools. It's pretty cool. Well, if you like this video, if you got any questions, any comments, please comment, like this video, subscribe, share, whatever. Hey, don't think you can build it? You can build it. It's not terribly difficult. Just takes a little bit of thinking and just finesse getting everything level and everything else, and maybe an electrician to wire up the pump, but it's easy enough. Hey, like this video, share, subscribe. Thanks. Alright, so it is the next morning, and my pool went from 85-ish degrees overnight to 81 degrees. The solar panel, first solar panel was at 98. So this valve is flipped over and it is entering the pool from above. My second panel right now is in the shade. It is 72. So that panel, so what's happening is it's coming out of the first panel at 81 degrees, it's exiting at 81 degrees. It's not really picking up a significant amount of heat. It's probably picking up half a degree. I'm sure it's picking up something. But right now it's 9 in the morning, so it's kind of in the early stages of all that. The pan temperature is 73, so it's closed. So take a look at this. Excuse me, I just moved it. And as you can see, the valve is switched up into that position, so the water is coming from the first panel, hitting it. Temperature's not warm enough, it's going to my pool because everything here is in the shade. See how this tree blocks that panel, but my other panel is getting significant amount of sun to start the process. That is what's happening. Oops, I left the gate open. That's what's happening. That's the intent of that, and then it'll probably pick up a good 5 or 6 degrees today, and maybe this afternoon go for a swim.